我们令求直播传真，今天是2022年4月20号，我们在温哥华某咖啡厅采访一位原住民，因为今天的话题呢比较沉重，是关于加拿大原住民发生的一些真相，以及加拿大政府想做出和解的一些努力。这地方我们要采访一位原住民其中一个有影响力的一个发言人，他的名字叫做Glakwa Princess 他就是
Kweenie
Glakwa Kweenie
Yeah
同时呢他也自己叫做是 Princess OK 好，那今天呢，我们就请他来聊一下啊。So, Miss Glakwa, would you please introduce your tribe background?
My tribe?
Yeah.
Okay, I am from Coast Salish. I was born in Slyemen from my mother's side. My mother's side, my father's side is from Hamalko, and my grandmother's Kwagil. From the Kwak-Sistalas family. I'm descendant of Chief Dan George.
Oh,
yeah.
you're very, like your ancestors is very proud. Okay. I just want to know, because recently, Canadian government right now say some apologize for the First Nation. And then there is a movement called the Truth and Reconciliation. So how do you think about this issue?
Well, I'm not happy with how the government has handled this topic. Both of my parents went to residential school, my grandparents on all sides of my family, and they were all tortured there, they were starved there. My grandmother died of diabetes complications in her kidneys when I was 5 years old because she was starved there. I was told that she couldn't eat anything, and when she got home she would just eat all the pork and bacon she could until she got sick. Our people were very tormented there. They weren't allowed to speak their language, so pins were stuck in through their tongues, a lot of beatings, a lot of sexual abuse. What happened was when they went to residential school and bad things happened, they brought it back home. So that's what happened to me, was I was abused by my uncles also in my community. So it happened in every family. So what happens when you're sexually abused is it does affect your whole life, because you're not, what I see is the government has planned our people to be damaged through sexual abuse, through our foods we eat, through starvation of the children, because when you're starved like that, it makes you have health issues. And the health issues for my people, because they eat so much fried food, fried breads, fried everything, is that it makes you have diabetes through all the GMO in the food and the flour, the toxins and everything that my parents ate. My father was diabetic at age 40. So I had to watch my poor father have his toes amputated, like a lot of heavy illnesses. I had to watch my aunties die of cancer, complications from diabetes and the food. So the government basically knew that our people were very easy to be kept on a uneducated, illiterate program. My parents were illiterate. They were grade 2 education because they weren't allowed to be taught how to read in these schools. The government forced our people into silence through the forced colonization of our people not being able to speak up for themselves, but to be quiet and silence, which is why the government took away our hereditary rights of the true hereditary chiefs. Dan George, you're born into hereditary chief rights. You're born into that family as to take care of the people. And when you're elected chief, which follows the government, Trudeau example, when you follow the government, you're elected to vote, you're elected to follow the white man's ways, I guess you could say. And I don't agree with that because our people aren't white. We're native. We're supposed to be hereditary. We're supposed to care about the land. We're supposed to care about Mother Earth. And we're supposed to care about every person from the babies all the way to the elders. And what I see is that the elders are not being taken care of. They've been forced upon to have the jab, the COVID-19 jabs. Elders were forced to have 3 and 4 shots. I am an elder and I refuse to have the jab because I know it's going to murder our people. So I'm not happy with that whole ordeal that the government has come down to about forcing the jab upon our people. And now they're forcing our children to have it, which I am terribly annoyed with because my children were forced to have the jab to keep their jobs. So I'm not happy that the government has forced all these issues not only upon Native people but on the whole of Canada. So I think it's just a plot, like how the government killed our people in the early 1900s through smallpox, through the smallpox infected Hudson Bay blankets. It's like it's all over again, a genocide, a cultural genocide that they did to the Ireland people in 1763. So history repeats itself. Well, now they're trying to kill off my people again, which I'm not happy about either. So I think it needs to be discussed on a more political level, because now our people are forced to live in poverty. There are many homeless people that can't find a place because they're low income. If you're older, you're discriminated upon because you're on disability, when the rent is all over $2,000 in Vancouver alone and any other city. So how are you supposed to pay your rent if your disability is only $1,000? So I don't agree with how the government isn't taking care of our people, but yet they will take care of the Ukrainian people who get jobs, who get homes, who get everything. And what about our people who are born in this country who are getting no help, period? So I'm not happy that I'm trying to find a home right now, and we haven't been able to because of our age and because of our low income. So, you know, and where does that come from? That comes from the government. So, yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. When you say truth and reconciliation, is that, yeah, okay, let's have the truth. The whole truth, and how can, you know, my parents are in heaven and they suffered, you know, they suffered a life of poverty, a life of not being able to read and be educated, but yet they still had that love in their heart, for sacred Mother Earth and for the, you know, for the oceans and for family. So I do honor my parents for teaching me that, the sacredness of family.
Your family, so far, how many children do you have?
I
if
have
you don't
3
mind.
children right now. 3 children. A 25-year-old, my middle daughter was born in 93. She's 28, and my daughter's other one's 34. She'll be 35 next month.
So any policy that force your children to get the vaccine?
Yes, my my children were forced to have the vaccine for their jobs. They said that they couldn't keep their jobs if they didn't have the vaccine, which I wasn't happy with because I belong to a group called peopleofthesalmon.com, and they're a sovereign nation group, and we have chosen in our group, we're global, to not have the vaccine. And we're supposed to have support that says that we have our sovereign rights and that we can live our lives without being forced into that sort of a medical, the medical COVID-19 shot. Like that should be our right. We don't have to be forced into it.
So you personally refuse because your ancestors got a smallpox?
Yes, I don't trust the government at all with anything to do with any kind of shots that destroyed my people, and it's like they're still trying to kill our people. Our people are still dying, like I said, dying of cancer, dying of diabetes, dying of because of the foods that they're forced to eat in poverty. No one talks about our people living in poverty. People have nowhere to live. Like you see, the whole East Hastings is full of our people. They're homeless. They're in poverty, and they all went to residential school. It's like they're stuck in that being a child, and why they drink or why they do drugs is because they gave up hope. There's no hope. There's nothing there that they see for the future because of this truth and reconciliation. This should have been done like when my grandmother was still alive. Why did she have to die when I was 5? That's like 54 years ago. She died. I had to grow up without a grandmother because of residential school.
So, because history, it happened, it's like the sunk cost. Because it's happened, so we cannot
I'm still
come back.
living the Holocaust. I'm still living the Holocaust of my grandmothers and my grandfathers, what they suffered. And I'm still here. I raised my children as a single mother on my own, but I'm still here. I raised my children. I'm educated, but because I'm educated and I have a voice, my life is threatened. The native reserves are all run by gangs, which is called Hell's Angels. And if you have a voice, they want to stomp you out and try to kill you. So I've been followed and chased around for like 5 years now. I've been trying to keep my voice quiet, to keep me from saying anything about missing and murdered women of our people. All the children that are kidnapped, all the babies that were murdered at the residential school. There's over 8,000 dead baby graves that they found across Canada, and they're still finding more, and the government won't put it on the news because they don't want anyone to know about it. But this is the truth and the reality that I have to live through. I can't stop and be quiet because I'm the one that has to talk about it and to say enough is enough. We have to stop being afraid and stop having people to shut us up. Like, it's not fair. Why can't we have a voice and share with the world the truth about what is really going on in this country called Canada?
Wow. Today I'm the first time know you said 8,000 people, the kids was killed. Babies.
They were impregnated at these residential schools by these pedophiles who they hired to work there.
So where can read this record?
Well, a lot of them were burned down. They burned the schools down. They burned the records down. I don't agree with the Catholic Church. All they say is, oh, apologize, apologize. We need more than an apology. We need to see our culture brought back. We need to see our people being safe. Our people, like if there's youth that run away and have nowhere to go because they were forced apprehension and forced into foster care, they need a place to run and to go and be safe, like safe houses for our teenagers, safe houses for seniors who are living homeless in poverty also, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Like we're not all alcoholics and drug addicts. We're just here to have a voice and try to help each other, help humanity, and to help the world to say, hey, we do need each other. We do need to share our love. One heart, one love, I always say, through sovereign nation, which is going back to sacred Mother Earth, taking care of her and loving each other, which humanity is supposed to be doing, helping one another, not being the greed and saying, oh, only the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's what I believe.
Another question I want to know, all the tribe have a chief. The chief can really, on behalf of everybody or all the person of the member?
Basically chiefs today, like back in the day when Chief Dan George was alive, he was a hereditary chief, we call. He was the hereditary voice for his people, for his sacred land. They protected the lands. They protected their people. They protected the foods, the traditional salmons, our whales, everything, our deer, our elk. Everything was accounted for, and that's our traditional foods. Nowadays, the government forced our people to vote like the white man, to vote for an elected chief. Who, do they help their people? No, they don't. Most of them, some of them are forced to be gang members, to be joined through the gangs, the Hell's Angels, who pull the strings like puppets on a string, is all I can say, by bossing them and say, well, if you don't listen and do this and this, we're going to kill your families. And that's what they've been doing in Campbell River, is they've killed fathers who were good artists. They killed the father. Like there's a lot of sad stories that go along with this truth that I'm saying. And these people weren't alcoholics. They were good men. They were good family men. But because they wouldn't go bad on the dark side to join a gang, they were X'd out. So that's what I'm saying. When you're trying to be a powerful voice for your people, they don't like it. They want you shut up, and they will try to kill you. And that's for the missing and murdered woman also, which stems from what I'm talking about on the reserves and why our people are targeted. It goes so much deeper than that. What I'm told now is that our people are worth $10 million for a birth certificate. And that $10 million is worth every dead native. So every dead native, this goes all the way back to Picton on the pigs farm. You probably heard in the 80s. When they murdered our people, I've talked to different people that survived. They said that down Skid Row, the Balmoral, that there was taxis there and police cars. Everyone was involved to take the women and men. They told them they were going to a party out at the pigs farm. They were going to party, free booze, free drugs. They were never ever heard of again. And that's where they were murdered and killed for the $10 million for every dead native. And so that has to stem back all the way from residential school. I would say that every dead baby was worth $10 million, and that's what the residential school people got that money from. I mean, this stuff that I'm talking about is very heavy because it does involve the police, it involves everyone, the ambulance, and all the whole Picton crew, the whole Hells Angels gangs, because it's all stemmed from all the kidnapping and the murders. And I even tried to get a hold of Judge, her name's Judge Buller. She's a First Nation Cree judge. She's in charge of missing and murdered women. And I tried to get a hold of her, and I can't even get a hold of her because they're all so afraid for their lives, including Ashley Collingbull, who is the former Miss Universe. She won the Miss Universe pageant for Canada. I couldn't get a hold of any of them. Nobody wants to talk to me about this because they're scared. The missing and murdered woman I'm talking about, and this $10 million for every dead Native. Everyone knows, but everyone's afraid because they don't want to be targeted. So what am I supposed to do? I've been chased around and followed since my kids were little. And I'm just tired. I'm tired. I just want to live my life and be happy. I don't want to, be having to go around and be targeted as just because I'm being a voice for our people. It's not fair. It's not fair that we have to suffer in silence and still be, you try to be a voice and nobody will allow you to be a voice. Our people just want to choose to be stuck in that world of muck, I call, because who wants to be a puppet on a string, right? That's what elected chiefs are, I'm sorry to say. But if they were really helping our people, we wouldn't have anyone on Skid Row on alcohol and drugs, right? Being homeless. They would have somewhere to go, a safe place to go, because not all of them are on alcohol and drugs. If that makes sense.
I just wondering, for example, personally, for yourself, how you can feel relief or reconciliation?
How can I feel relief?
Yeah, because I know you suffered, but how you can relieve those kind suffered in your heart? Or I can say it in another way, how the government can help you or do something and you feel comfortable or relief your pain.
Well, I would say that the government needs to restore the culture back to the people, to build our own First Nations schools, and to make sure that our language is preserved and our traditional foods, culture, language, all of the above, and that the sacredness of family is what's kept us together all these years. Educational facilities where people can go and they want to learn how to heal, they want to learn how to get over the pain of the past, sexual abuse, whatever happened to them, and to go forward. Like a safe place to be. If you're running from a gang and you want to go and give up the gang life, they should have a place to go, right? A safe house. I don't know what else to call it. But if you, like, I'm just saying that all the youth are targeted on reserve. Join the gang or we're going to kill you. Basically, there's no in between. So if they don't want to join the gang, there should be a place for them to go and say, okay, I want to live a clean life. I want to become educated. I want to be cultural, and I want to be a family man. And they should have that choice. The government should set up that place for them.
Is there any policeman station in the reserve land, or there is not?
Some of them have their own private police. But like I said, the police are unpredictable also, because some of them are dirty cops and they're from the gang affiliations also. So how are you to trust? How are you to know? Myself, I don't trust the police because of that reason, because too many of our women and men have been murdered. So that's why I said we need our own safe houses for our people to go and to heal and to come together and say, hey, we don't need that gang affiliation. We need our own. And that's what I'm saying, sovereign nation, which is peoplesofthesalmon.net. Anyone can join, and that's the place right now that I believe is going to change the world for humanity, because we need to go back to sacred love, sacred healing, sacred love of Mother Earth, and care for one another. And how do we care for one another? They have to have a safe place to go, a safe place to live, and a safe place to be part of a family, like you belong. And if you don't feel like you belong or you don't feel safe because that tribe is controlled by a gang, then you should be able to leave and go to a safe place.
Another thing is I want to know, the population of the First Nation is growth or become smaller and smaller. Right now they grow up or they are decreasing.
Yes, well, more younger girls are having babies younger and younger. So I think that it's not by their choice, but mostly because they've been sexually abused by so many family members that sex is just a normal part of their upbringing. So they start having children 15, 16 years old, sometimes younger than that. So once they get a baby, and then they just keep having them. I know many girls from smaller tribes are having a lot of kids for that reason. They just don't see any other way to get money, I guess. I don't know. I think so. Because if you got, 5 and 6 kids and they're surviving on child tax.
Another, I heard someone said that's part of the wrong house culture, means the sexual problem is from the wrong house, because the different generations live in the same house. Is that true or not?
The different generations?
Because, for example, grandfather, father, and grandson, and even granddaughter living in the same room. Is that
Maybe for some people, like when I was growing up, we had a small house and we had to, share bedrooms. We only had a 2-bedroom. So on some families, because if they are living in poverty, yes, they do have a lot of people living in a house together. So like I was saying, my uncles, the ones that went to residential school and were abused there, they came back and abused us as children. I was like 5 years old when my uncle came back and started, touching me. And they do target certain ones, like they know if you're quiet, then they'll target you, like more like that. So I guess there's, I guess you could say every family is a little different, because my parents did drink, so when they had parties and that, a lot of bad stuff happened too, as mostly what happens when people are on alcohol. So a lot of my parents, they were, I guess, my dad was born 1926, so back then they had to find a Caucasian person to buy their alcohol, because the natives weren't allowed to buy alcohol back then. So what they did was they would find a half-breed, half native, half white, who had blue eyes to go buy their booze for them. So, people always find a way to get something however they have to do it. So I don't know. Some of the elders said that the native, the color of our skin is the easiest to erase, because when you start mixing the bloodlines, the native, they said, can be lost within 2 or 3 generations, and the skin goes whiter and blue eyes and blonde hair, because I do have cousins that are blonde and blue-eyed. So that's what I was saying with the Bill C-31. Like, the Bill C-31 is a whole nother topic again, because a Native woman who married a non-Native man lost their status cards in before 1986.
Oh, the fire alarm.
Is that fire?
OK， 好，现在我们这样发生了这个火警，所以我们现在离开这地方了。好了，各位观众，我们今天 interview 到此结束。好，再见。OK， 再见。